everyone, and welcome to our Comma Rethink Live Facebook Live session. Today's topic is a really interesting one actually. It's called Are You Sabotaging Your Marriage? And while we wait for people to come in to join in our show, just want to welcome you wherever you're coming in from. You know, it's today's topic. We have Chitrah Karthigeyan. She is a neuropsychologist, a behavioral neuropsychologist and Mindshift Coach. You know, Chitrah and I we got to know each other basically last year when I was doing my coaching certification, and she's like my senior, you know, so she's gone through the same coaching course, and that's how I got to know her. So she's really amazing lady and just so much insight that I've had in all the conversations that I've had with her. So it's really quite exciting, and I really am quite excited to see what she has to say about this topic. Yeah, so welcome in, and today I'm just gonna go straight into Chitrah. Here we go. Hi, Chitrah.
Hi, Grace.
Yeah, good to have you here, Chitrah. So good. Thanks for coming onto my show. We have Siobhan and Priscilla, who's on who's watching our feed right now. Thanks for coming online. Yeah, so
thank you for having me.
Chitrah, it's so wonderful, you know, that you can make time to have this conversation with me about such a interesting topic. Actually, when we were discussing it last week, it was just such a last minute thing that we were discussing it last week. They said, let's do this, and you know, this topic instantly like resonated with the both of us.
Exactly. I know. I remember wishing like, oh my gosh, we should have recorded this conversation. The clips would be so insightful.
Yeah. We had this long conversation for the rest of you who just tuning in right now. You know, we had this conversation about what we should be talking about today, and yeah, we said we should have just recorded it and put it on live now. Yeah. So Chitrah, can you just give us a little bit of background, especially for the people who do not really know you? Just a bit of introduction to yourself, what you've been doing for all these years. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I need to give you the short version of it. So my background is in psychology. I started off, you know, in my undergraduate doing psychology, but I also did a second major because, you know, people told me, oh, in Malaysia you cannot get a job with psychology. So I said, oh, okay, let me do a backup something. So I did speech pathology and audiology.
Wow.
Lagi cannot get a job in Malaysia at the time because it's the 90s, you know, this is in the late 90s. So anyway, I finished and I graduated, and I was always very interested in the brain. So I went into molecular neuropsychiatry for a 1-year internship, kind of like, you know, you get to be a research assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And that was at Yale, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah.
It's like a dream come true. So from there, then I went on to continue doing more research-based work. And so with my master's, what I did is I got into addiction studies, specifically conditioning behavior, how we look at how we learn and get addicted to things.
Right. Yep.
And what I realized is that you can get addicted to anything. It doesn't have to be drugs.
Yes.
Right? So understanding that whole the physiology of it, the brain physiology of how people get addicted, how addiction works in the brain. Then I came back to Malaysia, was in academics for quite a bit until I kind of had this moment in time where I just went, okay, that's it. Something's not right in my life. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to pack my bags and I'm going to go off, metaphorically speaking. So I left academics.
Okay.
When I was enjoying it the most, which was very, very difficult to do because like you love your job, you love your colleagues, you love your students, you love everything about it. How do you make that decision to leave? It's crazy.
Yeah, you did. And that was a major change for you.
That was a major change for me. So so from there, I went on a spiritual journey for yet another decade. So the first decade of my, working life was all in academics. And then the second decade was all about personal development, spiritual development. And that's when I got into hypnotherapy. I dabbled in some other areas of understanding the mind. I got into yoga, meditation, pranayama, and then finally landed up in coaching.
Wow, what a journey it's been. So you've accumulated so much knowledge, head knowledge and heart knowledge as well along the journey, I'm very, very sure.
Yeah, and so that was the interesting thing, because when you're on that journey, you don't realize that I was very much, you're right, I was accumulating that knowledge, and at some point you have to actually practice it. So it's kind of you learn, you apply, you practice, you shift, you learn, you apply, you practice, you shift, you learn. And so what I realized about life is you don't have a one and done answer. I started off wanting a one and done answer, like, I'm going to figure this out, this is it. Yeah, I'm going to give myself about 5 years to
Yeah. Wow. And you know what I mean, like Chitrah, I am sure that you have a ton of experience to share with us, but in today's session, our topic is, are you sabotaging your marriage? And so I would really like to pick your brain and find out, what you can share with us and all these people who are tuning in here. So thanks so much. I see there's Cassie here, Sarah, Jocelyn. Hi everyone for tuning in. Do mention if you have any questions, do type it in. I'll be monitoring it, and then later on we can answer the questions as well as we go along. So Chitrah, tell us, what has your previous research and experience taught us about human behavior, especially in the context of relationships?
Okay, so a few questions there, from sabotage to human behavior to relationships.
Yeah. So we talk about sabotage later, maybe.
Okay. So human behavior and relationships. Wow, it's a huge topic. What can you say about it? But for me personally, through this journey and through the lens that I am seeing things, with all the different perspectives, the one thing that I've realized is, before we engage with any relationship on the outside, we're very much engaged in a relationship with ourselves.
Yes, so true.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a saying, wherever I go, there I am. We cannot escape from ourselves. We are the ones who are seeing the world, hearing the world, thinking about the world, perceiving the world, understanding the world, and then interacting with it.
That's right.
One of the things that we, quite naturally, we become blind to this layer here, because we just focus on the outside, but we forget to focus on the inside. But through the years, as I started to focus on the inside, and I made the changes on the inside, everything changed on the outside, like if you're talking about a contentious relationship, you've got to ask yourself that tough question about, where is it inside of myself that I'm fighting, that I am not happy, where I am not accepting even my own viewpoints. So it is many layers of conditioning that we have, that we're carrying with us without even realizing. So one of the things that really opened my eyes is, because I've already introduced you all to a long laundry list of courses and programs I did. There's this program called Theta Healing, and what we do is we actually learn a method to dig in to find out, what is your root belief, and what is that belief doing to you, and how you're interacting with the world, and how you're then getting things out of the world. So for example, I believe in the heart of hearts, my boss hates me. Because of that belief, when we go out, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We look out for ways in which the boss doesn't like us, and so we're like, oh yeah, it's confirming that my boss doesn't like me.
Oh, we're looking out for that that something that fulfills what you think. Basically,
Correct.
that's what you're saying. Yeah, we look out for signs of that. Okay, yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that we think, believe, and hold true to ourselves, if you could call it like an operating system,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like how your computer has an operating system, you press start, it boots up, and then it processes all of the information. So we have that, and that is mainly set up between the ages 0 to 7.
Okay.
So that's why when I was
a long time ago.
a long time ago. And I'll tell you why the 0 to 7 is really significant, because a child's brain is mainly in the wavelength of theta wavelength.
Mm.
So in our brain, we have like about, we've got alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma.
Okay.
Not the gamma rays that you turn into
It's
the
something to
Incredible
sound,
Hulk.
yeah, it's something to sound very scientific to me. So what does that mean in layperson's language?
So in layperson's language, I'll just talk about the theta wave. The theta wave is where you dream.
Okay.
It's where you are very creative. It is also the state in which we induce hypnosis.
Okay. So is
So that
it
means-
something that you're conscious about?
Yes and no, but it goes straight into the subconscious.
Okay. All right.
So from 0 to 7, your brain is like a sponge and it's open to receive everything straight into the subconscious.
Mm.
Because as children, it's very hard to learn every single rules of the game of life, right? And then of culture, of our family. Children learn by watching,
Yeah.
by absorbing. If someone is very abusive to animals in the environment that they're growing up in, they tend to look at that as something that's very normal,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so 0 to 7, you've already formed your operating system. So what we do is we carry this, you know, we interact with the world, and then and something comes at us like, we make it fit into our belief system. And so we collect the information, and then we go on to the next one, collect more information, go on, you know, so this is what we're doing, is we have this operating system, the framework built in, and as we interact with the world, we are just confirming what we believe every single time. It's confirming what I'm seeing, it's confirming what I'm thinking. It's really confirming what I'm believing.
It's interesting. So like what you believe in, like how is it formed? Because like most of the time when you're at that age, it's basically what your parents taught you, isn't it?
So what you'll see in terms of relationship is, if you're not aware, this is when people, you know, of course in your adulthood, you have an opportunity to review this, look at this and see what serves you, what doesn't serve you, and we adjust and we go along. But if you don't adjust and you don't go along, then those are the patterns that follow you, and those are the patterns that become the behavioral repertoire that we use in our own relationships.
Well, I suppose because when you're very young, I mean, in our growing up years as well, like we don't really know our parents will teach you what's right and wrong in their eyes, in their perspective, and through their lens as well. And ultimately, like whatever we take on is subconsciously brought out into everyday behavior, right? I mean, it's like what we do, our attitudes. Yeah, so it's about like learning. It's almost like learning and unlearning.
Absolutely. It is learning and unlearning, and the unlearning is the most important thing, because you've got to unlearn and relearn a new thing and rewire for a new way of being. Because if you don't, everything that's in us is set in place to kind of do an automatic behavior. Life is complex. We don't have time to okay, when I wake up in the morning, okay, I open my eyes. Should I put my feet down? Yes, I should put my feet down. Should I stand up first, or should you know, we don't do all of those like behavioral checks. You'll go on automatic, right?
But you know, Chitrah, I mean, when it comes to like our behaviors and the things that we do, you know, oftentimes we don't necessarily think that you're wrong. Because I remember when I first got married, you know, and this is like in 2006. I got married in 2006, and I remember in that time, I was thinking to myself, like, whenever we had conflicts between my husband and I was thinking, why is it that he always has to think that he's right, that his way of doing things is the right way? And then I had to reflect on myself as well, thinking like, when is it, like, is it really me? Is it really him? You know, so I had that lots of those kind of moments when you really had to come down to the issue and look at it from a very objective point of view almost.
Yeah, and it takes that to do, it takes that kind of reviewing and looking at yourself. What part are you playing in bringing out that behavior, eliciting that behavior from the other person? And what part do we play in seeing it in our own lens? So there are two parts to it. So if I could just share my screen.
Okay.
I'm going to go and...
Sorry, Mom, I'm such an
academician. I need to write.
That's okay. It's good. Because I'm a very visual person. It's nice to be able to see some extra things. Okay. I don't, at the moment, don't see it. Yeah. Okay, it's going to come on soon. Yeah, I see your screen.
Yeah, here we go. So if you could imagine, like I said, 0 to 7 years of age, right? And if this is your data box,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to excuse my drawing. Oh no, what happened?
That's a very nice, that's a nice box.
So yeah, it's like the box keeps shifting and I don't know how to, hang on a second. This one is a little bit of a...
Okay. So let's say you've got a box, right? And you start storing data into it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is 0 to 7. Everything that we believe is there.
Mm-hmm.
Just ignore this one. I don't know how to make it go away.
Okay. So we'll look at the red box.
You'll look at the red box, yeah. So this is your brain, right?
Yeah.
Our brain holds many things, your memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have all of your emotional responses here,
Yep.
right? And so you have your thought processes that happen here.
Mm-hmm.
And in that you can plan your behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
We plan our behavior, we plan our actions, and stuff like that.
Yep.
I can't write action there. I'm going to write action here. Okay. And they're all interrelated.
Yeah.
They're all interrelated. So if, for example, you have one particular pattern, right, or behavior that says, when I am, let's say 0 to 7, you were criticized,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was a very painful incident. And so what you learn out of it is you have a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Right? We all have a coping mechanism. Whenever people criticize, maybe I shut my ears.
Mm.
So that whole thing, this whole pattern has your planned behavior, has the thoughts associated with it, has the memories, has the emotional responses, has the actions, all in here,
Yeah.
mapped out.
Yeah.
It's a map. And so all you need to do is it executes this
Mm-hmm.
operating system, it executes it whenever you have that situation arise in the world. And so you're with a partner, this is your operating system. So this is, let's say this is you,
Mm-hmm.
and this is your operating system. This thing is plugged in here. So you have a set of behaviors that you will do. And because of this, you will see other people's behavior match with yours. Say criticism comes in, they are criticizing me. Or they open their mouth and they say, hey, you know about that thing that you said?
Yeah.
Instantly your guards go up and you're like, okay, here it comes, guys, get ready, here it comes. Criticism's on its way.
Yeah. Right. So then instantaneously our mind like says like, oh, everyone's out to criticize me and I have to cope with this. Is that what's really going on here?
Correct. So when someone is saying something, what you are seeing is not what they are trying to say, but what you are perceiving.
So good.
Right? And so instantly what do? We respond, or we react rather. Right? And so similarly, if you can copy and paste this here, they would also have their own set of patterns and coping mechanisms and their own kind of trauma from having communications. And so you're like going back and forth with each other's patterns. You're just basically throwing a football back and forth.
Wow. But you said that this is something that happens pretty much between 0 to 7 years of age. What about when you're older and like, you know, during your elementary school years? Like, is this pretty much similar what happens in the growing up years?
So yeah, what happens is, so now from 0 to 7, we have this box, right? This is our black box. It contains all the information. So it already has its patterns set up.
Yeah.
Now let's say 7 to 14 example.
Yeah, especially when you become a teenager, there's lots of things that happen as a teenager.
Exactly. I have to ugly draw the box because what Microsoft Whiteboard does is it tries to correct my drawing into a beautiful box.
Oh, okay. You want it to look ugly, is it?
I want it to look ugly by design. Okay, so what's happening is you already have a certain set of patterns lah. You know, it's pretty minimal. Then we start having incidents happen, and then it gets recorded. It goes on top and overlaps the existing one, matching up pretty much with what we already have. Sometimes it changes. Obviously, we change, we evolve, we grow. But some of the basics of what we learned still remains the same. Then we just add on more information to that basic, and whatever trauma is there remains there. Then we keep learning new stuff. It's just adding on to what we already know and have, and the patterns just become like layers and layers and layers and layers of information, of new layers. So you do have new information, but one of the things that I often talk about is something called your emotional battery.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
I love this thing. So your emotional battery, no matter what you do, if you have a particular incident, right? Let's say the criticism thing again.
That's a good example actually.
Yeah, we all have it, right? So it brings up a lot of things. It brings up shame, and it brings up fear, guilt, absolutely.
I think it could be anger too. You know, some people, they get really angry when they get criticized.
Absolutely. So you've got all these different layers. So these emotions go in and charge up the emotional battery. And this emotional battery is linked to your thoughts, your beliefs, and which then obviously has an impact on your actions, right? So it is this cycle that we tend to get stuck on. So let's say you get a new piece of information over here, right? You get someone says, wow, you don't actually have to take criticism badly. Okay, great, I'm going to change. Fantastic. Next time criticism comes, I'm going to think it is positive. So we try to say, okay, I have new thoughts about it.
Yeah.
And so we try and take new action.
Nice.
Ideally, this would create a new set of emotions as well. And you've got to, as you do this, continue, you start changing these layers. You question, okay, I've got a new layer here. But what often we call a sabotage comes in is because the old emotional charge is, if it's very, very strong,
Mm-hmm.
right, it tends to kind of like zit.
Wow. It overrides your positive emotion.
It tends to override the whole thing, because what your brain is conditioned to do is your brain wants to stay safe.
So
The brain
true.
wants to stay safe. It wants to survive. So it goes back reminding you, hey, remember? We feel all of this when these things happen.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
So it's a fight. It's often a struggle. And when I say this becomes addictive, is because, we keep staying in this loop and getting addicted to this loop, because one of the most important things we tend to overlook is that a battery is very powerful.
Yeah.
Your phone, without battery, it doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In our emotional brain, right? The emotional brain is the more primal brain.
Yeah.
And it sends out the signals to your higher cortical areas where you make decisions.
Yeah.
And when it is so charged up, especially people who have had a very traumatic experience with criticism, you want to protect yourself. You go into fight or flight mode, right? So your
Yes.
decisions are obviously colored by that. So it takes a lot of extra energy to keep on this track. So when people say I fall off the wagon, they have a new goal and then they fall off the thing, it's because, you have so many other things that are sabotaging you, from your emotional battery to your old patterns. We tend to fall into that again and again and again.
Wow. So we kind of need a circuit breaker, really.
Correct. What you need is, you nailed it, is you need a circuit breaker. What we need is a circuit breaker. And that circuit breaker, you're going to have to repeat several times until it becomes a new habit.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you rewire yourself to to think, feel, and act differently.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. I love this drawing. It's so good. It's like so easy to understand. It makes it so easy to understand, Chitrah.
I love using the whiteboard because I feel like, we are all visual learners. Do you know that the majority, like a big portion of your brain, is dedicated to visual information, to processing visual information? It is larger than any other part of the brain.
Wow. Do you have any more new exciting things to draw for us? Or we can go back to your screen where everyone can be reminded how you look like.
I would like to. Are there people who would like to ask some questions?
Well,
Otherwise,
there's
I'm gonna
one
jump
question
into
here from Sarah. She says, how do you tell when the issue or problem is really it's me, not you situation?
Oh, that's a good one. Wow. Okay. So then it really requires awareness. And oftentimes, Sarah, whether it is you, right? Okay, sorry about the saying it, you.
It's okay, she can be dancing.
Is it me? Is it them? There's no straightforward answer here, and I would need to understand what the situation really is all about. But oftentimes, here's the thing. I'm giving you a generic answer, and I hope this sparks something inside of you for you to think about and process later on as you go about the rest of your day. If, let's say, someone doesn't respect your boundaries, for example, right? They kind of like all over you, like telling you what to do, telling you how to dress, telling you da 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 da, da everything also lah. Got so much to say, and you're like, oh my god, this person is so controlling. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Kind of true, but you also did not set a boundary. When we don't have this boundary, we're saying it's okay. Stimulus plus response over time becomes what we're conditioned to think, believe, and act on. This is the stimulus.
Yeah.
The response is okay. You're both conditioning this behavior and saying, okay.
Wow. That's so insightful, I mean, it goes to show, like, in this example even, like, how some people just allow themselves to be in relationships that are destructive.
Absolutely.
Purely because they don't set their own boundaries, and the other person, it's being taught to say that, to feel as if it's absolutely okay.
Correct. And for these people, everyone has their own conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Your operating system is saying this, your operating system is saying this over here, and oftentimes you tend to find a complementary match. Because if you believe, for example, I'm not saying this is true for you, Sarah, in any way, but for example, this person A believes that from a young age has grown up not having the boundaries respected, and then believes no one respects me.
Or listens to me.
Or that's a good one. Or listens to me. There we go. So what is a self-fulfilling prophecy here? You have a beacon. You have like a beacon here, right? Beep, 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 beep. A holding beacon looking for, okay, who's not going to respect me? Who's not going to listen to me? Beep, 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 beep. Come. This is my conditioning. I'm so sorry, like, so mean. But it is true. Then this one comes along and it's like, oh, I can tell this person what to do. I really care about people. I want to help them. So, you should do it like this. You should do it like this. You should do it like this. And then what you see is they're not being helpful. They're crossing the boundaries. So it's both ways. Yes, someone can be controlling. This is also true.
Yeah.
But it is also true that you have certain conditions and behaviors. Can you go and change this one? No. We have no control over it, but we have all the control over this, which is ourselves.
So it's really about what we perceive when things happen to us, and whatever situations or some challenges come our way, how we actually respond to that situation, how we react to that situation, how we internalize it. It's basically what comes out in our behavior.
Yeah, so if I were to start with, the first thing is your framework is where we start. We all have very our frameworks are our frameworks, like it is what it is. We have some very supportive beliefs. We have some very disempowering beliefs. Right? No one respects me, no one listens to me, I'm not worthy. Those kinds of things that we carry around, those already start framing things. And then after that, because of this for lack of a better word, we believe something, and so we tend to fulfill this prophecy. And the way, like you said, the circuit breaker is through awareness, and we create a circuit breaker and we start forming, we rewire, right?
That's where the learning and unlearning.
Unlearning, yeah. This is my repertoire of behavior. I used to do this. Now I need to do this. Right? And then I repeat. This becomes the new part of the framework. So does the other person have a role to play? Well, yes and no, because in a relationship you are interacting. So you can choose how you want to interact in that relationship now. How much you're going to say of this, what kind of communication you're going to have, how you're going to listen, how you're going to show up in that context, in that situation.
That's so good.
Yeah, and so the other, if you have a partner who is also willing to do this on the same level, this is when real phenomenal change can happen.
Wow, that's amazing. And the awareness is the part that really is the point where you need to realize, hey, there's something that's not right. There's a pattern here in my life that's not right. And I think for me, like when I was, when I basically got married at an early stage, I remember I was telling you about how I was feeling a bit of like feeling, hey, are you always going to be right in everything that you do? It was actually spoken out of insecurity. I realized that everything that I was saying was just because I was actually insecure inside, and so that's where it was manifesting in all these ways. And when it came to the point of realization, like, oh, it's actually about me feeling as if I'm being attacked. I'm feeling like my thoughts are not worthy and all that. And that's when I could deal with that. That's how I could start changing the pattern and changing the behavior.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you bring up a very important point, which is
it stems from you said, right? It's your insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that we often end up doing is we tend to beat ourselves up on our own insecurities, and that is another pattern in and of itself. I call it the unholy trinity.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about this.
Your unholy trinity is fear, shame, and guilt. They tend to be these cousins, the three sisters who show up together.
It's like the three ugly sisters in some fairy tale or something.
I don't know about ugly sisters lah, or maybe the three men or whatever it is, but it's like, shame shame and guilt are almost like, two sides of the same coin. Ugly's your twins, and your fear kind of like keeps everything going. They all just keep each other going in this loop. And for me, the circuit breaker here comes with, it starts with self-forgiveness.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, it starts with self-forgiveness. When you forgive yourself and you look at, it is not your shame to carry. You are not bad. Did you do something bad? Perhaps, but let us forgive ourselves for it. Then this doesn't have much power over you anymore.
Wow. That's so good. Well, Siobhan has a question here, Chitrah.
Mm-hmm.
Siobhan asks, what are some tips on how to communicate with your spouse or partner once you have gained awareness?
Oh, that's a very good question. Okay, so assuming that both have awareness or only one person has the awareness, it doesn't really matter. But let's say me and I have the awareness.
Like my insecurities.
Okay, let's use the
Yeah, let's
insecurities
just use
as
that.
an example. Okay, so you're aware that you have insecurities. I would say the first step starts with actually, okay, having mental awareness is one thing, but writing it down is a whole other thing. Because we have fleeting memories.
Yeah.
So having like some sort of a mind map, this is really studying yourself already, right? But if you understand your insecurity and you have mapped it out, and then you have certain like actionable steps that would change the course. So when someone says they have feedback, what could you do differently? You could say, okay, can I have some time to mentally prepare myself for this? Or can we have a time in which we talk about this where I can prepare myself mentally to come into this conversation? So you have those action steps and you have those plans laid out as well.
Yeah.
Right? And then actually, taking the action on it. And we're not going to be, here's the best part, and here's the most important thing. We think that we must go in 100%, and then every single day 100%, 100%, 100%, and then yay, we're done. That itself is a sabotaging behavior.
Can you clarify that a little bit? I don't quite get that 100%.
Okay.
What do you mean by 100%?
So, for example, you've already written it down, right? And you have your action steps. Okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So the next thing is I must take action in a particular context. For example, when feedback comes in, or when we have a conversation and they want to say something to me. Now, the thing that tends to come in and interrupt us is we have expectations. Sometimes these expectations are not realistic. Oftentimes those expectations would be, okay, when I do this, I must do it 100% of the time. And every single time, it must be perfect and on point. And then I must speak softly, slowly, understandably. We start having a lot of expectations. Okay. So instead of the expectations, what I'm saying is go back to a general action step, right? Think about 1% improvement. Think about 10% improvement. That's it. That's it. And, you keep doing this, you keep doing this, you keep doing this until it becomes second nature. So because you're in a relationship, obviously, the other thing is sharing this plan with your partner.
Actually, it's quite interesting because when using that insecurity as an example, when I got married, right, I did actually, after getting that awareness that self-awareness, I did talk to Alex and say, oh, how did I feel? The way that you talk to me sometimes, it made me feel like I was being criticized, and I didn't like that. And so if you talk to me and give me feedback, could you please say it in a way that is not like attacking my behavior? Like, could you say it in a way that is softer, more gentle? And so he listened, and because he actually took action that way to give me feedback in a way that's a little not so much like I'm attacking your character, and it was not in an angry manner. I think I took it a lot better, and I was like, okay, able to just think, okay, now is this real feedback? Is this something that I really need to look at? So that communication helped us a lot, and I think just making that slight tweak helped us in our conflict management during that period of time.
Wow, and that's so powerful, because then you're also bringing your partner and getting the partner involved in the action plan as well, and how you're going to manage it together.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't realize it, but I do write a lot of stuff down in my journal. It helps me a lot. Through the years, I did not realize the power of writing things down until much later in my life. And it's amazing. You can really, really see the patterns emerge. You know, like I felt like you can just totally see the patterns emerge when you write things down, and you realize that time and time again, I'm still struggling with the same issue. I'm still struggling with the same pattern. And that's when I realized that, oh, okay, I think I have some problem here with this particular issue. Yeah, that's when you need to realize that you need to deal with certain things like that. Yeah,
and that's when I would like to emphasize, yes, you
do have to look at it again, but it's also about looking at your 1% improvement and your 10% improvement, and also acknowledging the improvements over time. And when you have made the improvement, document it.
Yeah, that's right.
And celebrate it, because that is you anchoring this new behavior in and saying, hey, I did that. Good on me. Look at that.
Yes.
When I did this, what happened? So now this is kind of like the first phase. The second phase is that you actually monitor it. Like, you know, in workplaces, people will be like, okay, after you take the action, then we have to have year-end review, and then we have to look at how you performed and all of that, right? Mm-hmm. So this one is like on the go, regular reviews, and you're just looking at, hey, how did this, what was the outcome for this? How did it have an impact? How do I feel about it? Mm-hmm. What is it doing to my relationship? So a big part of it is acknowledging the change. Because until you see and acknowledge the change, it doesn't actually feel real in the old framework.
Wow. That's very interesting, because we need to acknowledge that we have made an actual change in our life as well. Yeah, and celebrate it. I think I like that. We need to celebrate that. I think we don't celebrate enough most of the time.
And here's why celebration is even more important. Remember I told you your brain has an addictive pattern?
Yep.
Celebration is reward, right? Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is
same category as caramel popcorn?
Same category as caramel popcorn, I'm telling you. So let's say your behavior, you successfully completed, and then you're like, yay, and then you have this outcome, and then you're like, yay, now reward it, because your brain has a reward mechanism just like your caramel popcorn, and it associates it with joy. This is how you now put in a new charge into your emotional battery. Mm-hmm. With a new thought, your new action fills up your new emotional battery, and the old battery starts to wear out.
Nice. Very, very nice. Wow, we've got great feedback. Louisa says, wow, self-forgiveness to counter the unholy trinity, shame, guilt, and fear. She's like, wow. And then Siobhan says, a great topic, good tips, fab visualization. Vivian Ko says, good way to connect well with the know-how, which is important. And Shireen says, it's a good reminder to always celebrate.
Yeah, nice. This is a wonderful feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's so good. So this is just really quite interesting for us to know, Chitrah. Like, this is the way that we can. One of the ways we can break through our old mindsets and create new ones. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. So should I get off this and come back onto the screen?
Yes, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna.
Okay, she's coming back on. All right, nice. Thank you, Chitrah, for a wonderful drawing. Actually, that was really wonderful. Just being able to see that, visualize that, it just made it all so much clearer. You know, I mean, we know that we do have patterns that have been shaped from very young. I think we all are aware of that we have good and bad habits that we have created, or whether we've picked up from our parents or other things, or it's situations that happened to us in our previous, as we were growing up in our childhood. But it's just like, how do we break that pattern? I think like coming to that self-awareness first, as you mentioned, and then kind of breaking that pattern so that you create new awareness. Is there any other thing that could help someone in breaking these kind of like patterns of bad addictive behaviors?
I think it starts with, number one, maybe looking at your life, and no, you can't just look at all areas of your life, right? Maybe picking one area where you feel like, okay, I need to work on this area of my life. Maybe it's we're talking about relationships and marriage, so in the context of marriage and relationship, maybe it is communication, maybe it is listening, maybe it is presence. Whichever it is that you feel you're not like doing enough of, it's one of those behaviors that is causing a strain. Then it's time to maybe have a look at it and say, list it out. How do I listen? How am I communicating? How am I showing up? Let's say, for example, you're someone who goes to work and then you come back and you carry your work with you, and then you're continuing, and your kids are there, you're not quite present, your spouse is there, you're not quite present. And so maybe one simple thing is, do I want to become more present? Then how do I create that circuit breaker?
Yeah.
So first is identifying the behavior that we want to actually change.
Yeah.
The second thing is we're looking at our pattern in the context, or in the example of work and coming in, right? You don't have a circuit breaker. You want to create the context just before you enter the house should be the point of circuit breaker. That means I'm going to do something different before I enter the house. Usually I grab everything and just walk in.
Yeah.
I'm still on my phone when I'm walking in.
Yeah.
Maybe what you can do is you turn off your phone for the next 2 hours. Right?
Yeah.
For example, you turn off, so that becomes the complete circuit breaker. You take a breath and you conscious flow, and then I'm entering into the house.
Oh,
When
this
I
is
enter
such...
the threshold.
It's a good example, especially during this lockdown period. There is no segregation between work and life at home. When one moment I'm doing my work and another moment the kids are calling me and like, "Mommy, are you done with your call yet?" And so like, even in that kind of context, you can just so put aside that thought and just like, okay, now I'm just going to reframe. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be present. Yeah. And that's when you just put on a new hat and walk in with a different...
Let's say you've got a Zoom call from 2 to 3 p.m. Give yourself that 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, even if you really can't, you're tight on a schedule, just a few minutes to let go and pick up that behavior, the new set of behavior that we're going to be implementing, and say, how is it I wish to be present when I greet my children? How do I want to greet them? When I greet my spouse, how do I want to greet my spouse? Am I putting my phone completely aside? Those kinds of things. These are simple things. I'm talking about 1% changes.
Yeah.
Don't try to make 90% changes and 100% changes. The 1% change is a great starting point, and it is not impossible to do. So you don't feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. It's just so overwhelming. I do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow never comes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's true. Yeah, it's the little changes, the little things that you do every single day that's going to make a huge difference in your life over time. I really believe that. All the little habits.
Yeah, they call it the process of aggregation, I believe. But yeah, it's scientifically backed as well. There is, who was it? Was it a cycling team where this new coach came on board, and they did like 1% changes in like, okay, they changed the pillow they slept on. They changed the uniform to be a little bit more aerodynamic. They changed the clips on the cycle. They changed this. It was minor tweaks, and before you know it, they're winning the Tour de France or whatever it is, the major cycling competition, right?
Yeah.
And they're winning and they're winning and they're winning. They're like, oh, this coach didn't really do more of like trading stuff. He was adjusting all their sleep, this, that, everything plays, everything matters. Everything is connected. Everything
Yes.
has an impact.
Yes.
Process of aggregation.
Yes. Wow. I just want to say thank you so much, Chitrah, for unpacking this topic that is actually seems very complex, but it's the way you explained it. It just seems so simple to understand and so easy. And it's very interesting because, like what you mentioned about how our thoughts lead to our actions and our emotions, and that's the model that we learn in our coaching class, really, about how everything affects one another. Yeah, I think it's such an important thing for us to really create that kind of awareness. If anybody has any more questions to ask, you can just message here, and just type it in. I'm looking at it. Shireen has feedback and says, oftentimes we playfully banter and say, oh, now only you do for me when I remind you, and this can be very hurtful. And Louisa says, yes, 1% change. That's very encouraging. She says, one step at a time. And that's very, very true. Everyone, I just really want to encourage you, one step at a time in your relationship. That's all it takes for you to make a change in your relationship. Before we end this, Chitrah, is there anything else that you would like to share with the people who are watching with us today?
I think you made a really great summary, Graces. Just, that one step. It's not impossible. It is possible. We don't have to tackle every aspect of our life all at once.
Yes, you also feel very overwhelming, actually.
You know what? Okay, here's the thing. We didn't go in fully to sabotage, but number one thing about sabotaging is it is universal.
Okay.
Every single person sabotages themselves because your brain is designed to avoid pain and attract more pleasure.
Okay.
Psychological pain, emotional, these are all real threats.
Yeah.
It's just like a tiger is chasing you.
Yes.
So it's very real in our minds. So naturally, all of us at some point in our lives are going to have some sort of sabotaging behavior, and it may not be in every area of your life. It just may be in some areas where we're particularly a little bit more vulnerable about it. Mm-hmm. Generally, relationships, sorry to say, tend to be quite difficult for most people because we all grow up with so many different experiences, whether it is in school where kids have been mean to you, whether it is in your own home where we have a parent who means well but can be overcritical.
Yeah.
We grow up in such a complex environment these days, and then kids are on social media now and they're exposed to all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So we pick up a lot of baggage.
Oh, yes, through the years, a lot.
And it becomes part of that, coping mechanism. It becomes part of our sabotaging behavior. So it is going to be there. At some point in life, you are going to encounter it. You might have it in one area, two areas, maybe in all areas. I don't know. And it may be in higher degree in some, in lesser degree in some. So if you're going to work on it, pick one thing first. Pick one thing which you feel most comfortable working with, and that's a great place to start.
Very good. Thank you so much. I think that whole sabotage that you mentioned that it's universal. I think that's comforting to know at some stage that we have actually done it to ourselves. But to rest assured that you can forgive yourself for the behaviors that you have done in the past, even, and then just take a new step, move forward, right? I think that's where we shouldn't feel as if like, we got off on the wrong foot, or I did this like that, or I'm ruining this relationship because of some things that I've done. I love what you say. We really need to break that cycle by just forgiving ourselves first, above everything else.
Above everything else, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Cool.
Thank you, Chitrah, so much for this session. 1 hour just flew by, just like that.
Has it been an hour? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's 1 hour. I feel like, we can, this kind of topic, actually we can continue on and on and on and on.
Yes, we can. So if anyone has more questions and would like to, find out more, or you want to take a quiz on your self-sabotaging areas.
Oh, that would be great. Is there a place that we can, people can go to?
Yes. So I can share that link. What you can do is maybe drop a comment, send me the quiz, and what I'll do is I'll ping them.
Okay, or you just share it at the bottom, and we'll copy and paste it, and we'll also share it on our website later on when we write about this topic, because I think it's a I feel that there's really a lot to unpack, which we didn't really manage to unpack so much stuff. I all those years of your research and all that, 1 hour is not going to give you justice, actually.
No.
Maybe Chitrah, you can help us by writing an article for us. Which we can
I don't know
share.
about article. I am putting these things into the book that I'm writing.
Yeah, great. Tell us more about that.
So the upcoming book is Flying with Joy, and it's tied together with the program that I'm doing as well. So the basic idea is I do introduce why we are in this sabotage surviving mode, why we are addicted to it, how to break away from it, the 3 parts that are important in breaking away, and the step-by-step process. So that's in essence in the book, but I also then take people through a coaching program, through a training program, about 6 months to 1, not 6 years, 6 months to 1 year program. So this is how I introduce the transformation, because as much as I love and enjoy being a coach, I find that we lack the kind of background information that we need, especially growing up in an Asian culture.
Yeah.
We're not exposed to it, and even if we're exposed to it, our cultural upbringing kind of doesn't match up with what we're learning. And so even if we're reading it in other places, we're not internalizing it fully. So I find that the giving this kind of information, giving this kind of training, quote unquote, and then pairing it up with the coaching is the way to, for me, I believe, is the way to break through. That's
so good. And actually, it was one of the main things that why I studied, went for this coaching certification as well, so that I can help people get their breakthroughs. I think it just brings me so much joy to know that sometimes people just need someone else to be there to listen, to help, create that kind of awareness and self-awareness. Because if you can't do it by yourself, there is somebody else who is a neutral person, who's not your friend, who's always going to say yes to you, to be there for you as well. And that's just the beauty of coaching.
I'm so tempted to do another drawing, but I won't. But I'll give you all a visual.
So go ahead if you want to. It's okay. I think you'll be fine. Louisa says thank you, Chitrah and Grace. If you want to, you can go ahead and do a drawing. What drawing is it going to be about?
Okay, so let's say this is you.
Okay, hold on. Let me change my view.
Okay, so this is you, right? And you, with all of your existing knowledge, are trying to figure out, you're trying to figure out how to go about here. So what you end up doing is you're in the confines of this area and banging around the outer corners. That's it. But when we have someone else looking in, right, we can see there is a slit and there's an opening here. And through the right question, we spark an idea.
Yeah.
And so then this can open up and you can now think of new possibilities and your box grows.
Nice.
Your perspective grows, you know, so this is why I say, you know, when we have a professional coach, or if you're going for therapy, for example, a therapist is helping you, someone else is able to make sense of this madness. So they take this and then they're like, oh, this one here, this portion here, you know, it's laid out. And then you look at it and go, well, that's interesting. You know, before that, everything is just
Jumbled
here.
up.
It's all jumbled up. Unless you're someone who's very, very intuitive and reflective, and then you yourself write it down. But you're writing down from your known. You are not going into the unknown.
I can almost break out into a song.
Into the unknown. So this is why it is important to some extent, you know, to have someone give you that insight to help. Not stuck in your view, you know, you're not stuck with just the confines of your mind alone.
Wow. That's so good. Thank you, Chitrah. Anything else that, you know, I actually got lots of very, very good feedback over here from people. So, you know, of course, Louisa already mentioned, she said, big hugs to the both of you for encouragement and awareness that you're bringing into the world. And Vivian says, I find this really useful. And Felicia Young says, thank you, Grace and Chitrah, for this mind-opening session. It creates so much awareness now. That's wonderful. Yes. So if any of you would like to take the quiz, you can just mention in the chat as well. There is a quiz about understanding yourself a little bit better, whether you are actually going to be, whether you do have some self-sabotaging behaviors. You know, you can actually just mention in chat, or we'll post it up later as well. And yeah, we've basically come to the end of our conversation. And if you would like to ask any more questions, you know, you can always connect with us or connect with me on our social media pages, on Facebook, on Instagram. We're at comma.rethinklife. Of course, you're here already on the Facebook Live, so you should know what our Facebook handle is. But basically, just connect with us and let us know that, you know, if you are interested to find out more, even about coaching, for example. You know, we will be coming out with some new programs as well in the year, this year actually coming. So there's lots and lots of exciting things coming up. If you are interested in other topics, you can also write to us, let us know, so that we can find the relevant people to have conversations with. So thank you so much once again, Chitrah. I wish you all the best in the journey, and especially in the new program that you're coming out, the book as well. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Thrive, that's the program. Thrive.
It's called Thrive. Yes, I love that. Thrive. I love that word. It's so good. Thrive. Okay, and that's all from us. From us. Thank you, and have a good evening, everyone.
And stay safe.
Yes, stay safe.